side, you'll see the first monument in our tour here. This is the famous Opera House, one of the most beautiful buildings in the city. So they're cleaning lots of the buildings, of course, for the Olympics. And unfortunately for you, this one is covered in scaffolding. It's one of the last buildings to be cleaned. So as we go round it, you get an idea just how big it is. It's one of the largest opera houses in area in the world, but actually has one of the smallest seating capacities, simply because the stage inside is so large, you can accommodate 450 people on the stage alone at any one time. So to the 200 of the building, have a look on the left here, you see it juts out from the main building. And keep looking on your left-hand side, you'll see in a moment, it's actually a street going into the building. And it was built as a private entrance for the Emperor Napoleon III, so that he could go in there with his horse and carriage, get off on inside, and go into the royal box without anybody seeing him, and reduce the risk of being assassinated. So there were 3 attempts on his life, and he was so that they were too big to put up barricades and block off a whole quarter of the city during the revolution, but also dead straight lines so that the army would have a clear line of fire on the rebels. So incredible, these wonderful streets were actually built purely for military reasons, nothing to do with traffic problems. So look on the left, you see the big door there, and you see the entrance to his private entrance to the Opera House. The irony of the story is that by the time the Opera House was completed in 1875, Napoleon III had died. So believe it or not, he never got to use the private entrance. Right here, and as we do, look on our right-hand side of the blue wall plaques, and you'll see the name of this street in a moment we're going down. It's called Rue de la Paix, not well known abroad. Everybody in France knows this address. It's the most expensive street on a French monopoly board. So people are always surprised, why not the Champs-Élysées? But you'll see in a moment, it's the centre of the high-class jewellery district, so the top end of all the jewellery stores. Just heard of one Napoleon, the Napoleon. So he was a nephew of Napoleon I. He wasn't called Napoleon, but when he became emperor, he took the title of Napoleon just to be associated with his great uncle. But he's gone down in Parisian history as the man who built the boulevards. So looking on our right, you see all these famous names in jewellery shops, and then this one here, Cartier, this is their original shop. So there are many Cartier shops in Paris. There's a huge one on the Champs-Élysées, but that's the original store. So looking in front of us, you have the Austerlitz column, commissioned by Napoleon after the Battle of Austerlitz. He brought back all of the enemy's cannons, 1,254 of them, melted them down, and believe it or not, this monument you're looking at in front of us is made from the cannons captured at Austerlitz. So you see it looks like cartoons the whole way up along. It's actually the different stages of the battle, with the statue of Napoleon on the top dressed as a Roman emperor. So you see this is one of the most beautiful squares in the city, and it's also famous. If you look on the right hand side, you have the original Ritz Hotel that gave its name to so many hotels throughout the world. And as you know, that's where Princess Diana spent her last evening. So the video images we saw of Diana leaving the hotel, the last pictures taken of her, were not taken from this side. This is where you had the photographers they tried to avoid, so she went out the back exit on the other side of the building. So Coco Chanel loved the hotel so much she rented out a suite of rooms for 37 years and lived and died in the Ritz Hotel. So this square was built by Louis XIV, the most famous French king of all, who built the Palace of Versailles. He's the one who had the sun as his symbol, so he was known as Le Roi Soleil, the Sun King. He left his symbol in whatever building he commissioned. So look at every one of the balconies the whole way around. You'll notice you have the sun, the symbol of Louis XIV.
That was another new fact.
I wondered where the gas station.
I thought they were all outside.
Right.
So, of course, if you go out into the suburbs, you have them above ground or whatever, but in the city proper, they're all underground. So this is the entrance to it here on our left. And look from the sign there, you see Avis Rent-A-Car and Budget Rent-A-Car have their offices down there. So it's a huge underground parking area, and it's much larger than the church. It's actually directly underneath us here as well. Because I had a car when I parked down there once and made the mistake of it going down and saying we'll walk to the car. So look on the right, you see there are entrances over here? You have to remember where you parked your car, and you see there's another one on the right hand side, because otherwise you're walking half a mile underground to your car. So it's better to remember exactly where you were parked so that you can get actually the nearest entrance to it. So looking on the left then, you'll see how clean the front of the Madeleine Church looks, and of course all of this will be on view from Concord Square, where you'll see they've actually built some of the stadiums for the Olympics. So a large part of the square is completely blocked off to traffic and even pedestrians. So looking at the shops here and the names, you'll see we're obviously in one of the fashion districts. So being such a fashion city, there's more than one fashion district. Originally it was down the street on our right hand side called Faubourg Saint-Honoré, and down on our right hand side you'll see on the top of the building you have the sign Hermès. They have their famous store down there. But of course over the years it has spilt over onto this street, and it's actually become part of the fashion district also.
C'est turc, c'est tête de turc. Ouais, c'est vrai.
We won't translate.
Okay. I might.
Et de l'autre côté, on va prendre les quais vers Notre-Dame.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, you see.
Oh my
half of the square
God.
completely blocked off.
Holy
We
wow.
won't translate that either.
Huh.
This is
Left in the gardens is a famous museum called the Orangery. It's a small collection but has some very famous paintings, and the most famous ones are actually the series of paintings called Monet's Water Lilies. So of course Monet, the famous impressionist painter, painted over 250 paintings of water lilies, but he did a whole series which are very, very famous, and they're actually in that building. So the only reason I tell you that is coming up on our right hand side, the huge building you see is called the Musée d'Orsay, the Orsay building, housing the largest collection of impressionist paintings. You would presume they would be in there, but in fact Monet's water lilies are in a museum called the Orangery. So, of course, the Musée d'Orsay does have a few paintings of water lilies by Monet, but they're not the famous series.
We're going to the exhibit on Friday.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Fabulous. All of this is the Louvre Museum, and it is almost 1 kilometre in length. It's an incredible building, in a U-shaped building. So it's over 500 years of history as a royal residence, which is just incredible. So every king and queen of France over the centuries, if you needed extra space, you added on a new wing. So that's how you end up with this huge building. But by the 19th century, it was causing a traffic problem. So look on the left, they had to build a street going through it. You see the interior courtyard, and the building on the other side of that courtyard is still the Louvre. So a U-shaped building, 1 kilometre in length. So just to let you know, it's the most illogical building to get round inside, simply because it's literally 10 buildings in one. So over the centuries, how did you stitch all of those buildings together? Well, there was only one way, by stairs. So when you visit the Louvre, you're going up and down stairs, just going from one wing to the next wing. Wood. So you've all heard of the Great Fire of London in 1656. You had the same problem in all the medieval cities of Europe, the problem of fire because of the wooden structures. So following one of the great fires in Paris, they changed the building material from wood to stone. The first bridge that was built of stone logically got the nickname the New Bridge. The name stuck, and hence the reason we know the New Bridge is the oldest one in the city. So for those of you who learn French, you will know neuf means 9, but it also means new when something is brand new. So you will know the other word, nouveau, but you know you can say in English, I have a new car or I got a new car, but in fact your car is a second-hand car. So if you want to emphasize that it is brand new, you have a separate word in French and they say neuf. So looking on our right, the Pont Neuf leads across to this island. If you look at a map of Paris, you see this island in the center of the river, Ile de la Cité, the oldest sector of Paris dating back to Roman times. So the Romans founded Paris 2,000 years ago. So looking on the right, the building with the medieval towers there is called the Conciergerie, famous because it was the official prison during the Revolution. So this is where you spent your last nights before you went to Concorde Square to the guillotine. And it's now a museum inside to the French Revolution, well worth a visit, and you can visit the cells and you see what they look like. And they have also preserved the one where Marie Antoinette was kept for 3 months before she was guillotined, and you can see it. So looking on our right then, over the rooftops, you can see the towers of Notre Dame Cathedral. And what's interesting for you, you can see the spire. Only about 10 days ago they started taking down the scaffolding. So it's fascinating because this is the first time in 4 years we can actually see the spire. So they're back on schedule and it will be finished this year and it will be officially inaugurated in the autumn. So we're back to schedule.
Lui, c'est un haut gradé, lui, tu vois.
Ah oui,
Ouais, ouais. Ça, c'est un capitaine, quelque chose comme ça, ou tu sais, lieutenant.
oui,
T'as vu, il a regardé le monsieur, il a dit.
incroyable. Hein?
Lui, là, c'est le chef des commissariats de tout le secteur. Il est gradé.
It's not actually the biggest or best example of a Gothic cathedral in France. That title goes to Chartres.
Yes, it
But
does.
it's the most famous one simply because of the success of the book The Hunchback of Notre Dame and the various films. So that's what makes the fame of Notre Dame.
Are we in the Rue Saint-Jacques? Oh, yeah.
It's on the other side, you're right.
Okay. It just feels that, like that line. Okay.
So looking on our left, you get a view of the famous facade of Notre Dame with one of the famous rose windows on the front here. And have a look at the spire, because by helicopter they put the weather vane on the top of it. You see it's a golden weather vane.
Oh, neat.
If you want to take photos, there's a break in the trees, just the lights here. You see on our left, and you'll get a fabulous photo. You see the weather vane on the top?
Yeah.
So they actually put that up by helicopter. So they were showing it on TV, and that's where they mentioned about dismantling the
Whether
scaffolding.
the parapet? No, I know the word.
On the other side of the river, the right bank, there was a church, St. James, and of course this was on the pilgrimage route to Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain, the shrine of St. James. So it was the route in medieval times out of the city. So looking at the wall plaques on the left and right hand side, we're back to a boulevard, true to its name, did you notice? Tree-lined avenue, wide street. To the great men of the nation. So it used to be a church. You'll notice there is a cross on the top of it, but during the French Revolution the church took the wrong side. They sided with the king because he was here by divine right. However, when the king lost, the church actually lost also. So all church property was confiscated. Notre Dame was taken over and turned into a grain warehouse. So of course later on the church property was given back to the church. However, this is an example of one that was never actually given back. So who's actually buried in here? Victor Hugo, who wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Louis Braille, who invented the blind alphabet. And last November, an American lady was put in here, her remains, and her name was Josephine Baker. So she had a huge career in France, from literally the 1920s to the 1970s as a singer, and during the war years she was here as well, and she was actually in the French Resistance. You see, it's a beautiful Luxembourg Palace, excuse me. It's a beautiful building on our right here.
Palais du Luxembourg.
Ouais.
Was just that it actually says on the plaque, students from the University of Virginia that he founded, who were soldiers in the First World War, were surprised there was no plaque to him, and they actually put it up. So we see it quite clearly. It's very easy to find or to see even from the bus. So have a look on the right here. It's coming up at number 92. There's a big black gate as the entrance. You see it on the right hand side here, and you see it says "We Work," and you see there's a plaque underneath it, and you see there's a lot of writing on it. So it actually talks about it, the fact that it was soldiers who were former students of the University of Virginia. So his property was actually down the side street. You see on the right hand side there. So the Champs-Élysées as we know it today didn't actually exist at the time. But the end of his property was up to here.
That was Louis Vuitton.
And have a look on the left here. It's a famous Louis Vuitton shop. So many people want to go there that they limit the number of people inside at any given time, which means there is permanently a line of people outside. You have to queue up. So look at the people. Incredible. And that is very short, that line this morning. And then incredible, they brought this property here next to it. They're going to open a hotel. And this is hiding the scaffolding and all the work. So look down the side street. You see the whole building has been gutted out.
It's literally, it's a trunk.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like that was there too.
I kind of love it.
I think it was there 2 years ago. Was it there 2 years
No.
ago? Oh, there's something.
No, I feel like I would remember it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first time I see it as well.
Because we were on the Champs-Élysées
Okay.
last year for hotel, and I feel like I would have remembered this giant Louis Vuitton trunk.
I agree with you.
Oh no, it's
Oui,
both.
c'est extraordinaire.
It's both.
Et pour cacher les échafaudages et le travail. On the hour for 5 minutes it sparkles as well. How you saw it, yeah.
So much shiny.
So looking straight in front of you, underneath the Golden Dome is where you find Napoleon's tomb. So the building we're looking at is called Les Invalides, meaning the Invalids, because it was built by Louis XIV yet again, who built the Palace of Versailles, and it was built for wounded soldiers. So the story goes he was riding through Paris, he was shocked by the number of beggars, his ministers explained they were wounded soldiers, there was no state pension. If you were ever wounded from the army and had no family to look after you, the only career you could have was to become a beggar. So he was shocked by this story, these poor old men serving him on the battlefields of France, and they end up as beggars. He set up this royal institution whereby if you were ever wounded from the army, had no one to look after you, they would give you a room in the building and look after you for life. So as you can imagine, they were lining up to join the French army. So it was imitated by many other countries. So there's a famous one in London, the Chelsea Royal Barracks and Chelsea Pensioners. But I always tell Americans, this building in front of you is the origin of Veterans Administration. So the first Veterans Administration in the world is this building in front of us. And believe it or not, the tradition still exists. One wing of this building is actually rooms for war veterans. So if you're ever wounded from the French army, you can get a room in here and the army looks after you for life. So most of it then is filled with army museums on the inside. So well worth the visit, very interesting, the army museums, but it takes you days to do it, it's so big. But believe it or not, there are 2 rooms dedicated to the American War of Independence. So you may wonder, what is the American War of Independence doing as a theme in an army museum in Paris? Well, you're going to be shocked. It's all about the French contingent that was sent by Louis XVI, and where they went and what battles they were involved in the American War of Independence. So it's very, very interesting for you to visit it, because it's literally the American War of Independence from a French point of view. Amazing. The roof, they're actually all suits of armor. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Keeping with the military theme. So what's interesting also is that they have a cannon in there that was captured by George Washington at the siege of Yorktown. He gave it to the French regiment that was fighting with them, and they brought it back to France as a souvenir of their time in the United States. So incredible. It's actually housed in this army museum here.
A bit heavy for a keyboard.
So as we go around it, you see just how huge the building is. So that's why I said the museums are huge inside. So then looking on our left-hand side, we're going to see the Rodin Museum, the famous sculptor. So there are some of these sculptures, some of them are actually in the gardens. So look over the fence on the left here, you'll see the famous thinker. You'll see it's a naked man with his hand to his head in the action of thinking. You see it on the left there? And of course you all know what he's trying to figure out, where he left his clothes.